A new survey on Singapore workers carried out by human resources consultancy Hudson points to a leadership gap in organizations. About 480 employers and 1,300 employees were polled, and it found that about 40% of employees changed their jobs in the last 2 years. Now, over 70% are apparently looking for a job at the moment, and of this group, 87% are expected to change jobs within the next year. Now, 56.8% of employees rated the quality of their management as good or excellent, and the rest you can see there rated their managers as average, poor, or very poor, and because of this, they are 1 foot out the door. Now, 68.3% surveyed say that they've left a job before because of a poor manager, and 63.3% are currently thinking of leaving for that reason. So to give us a bit more insight into the survey, I have with me Craig Brewer from Hudson. So Craig, pleasure having you with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So based on the latest findings, which industry saw high turnover last year?
Well, throughout the last 12 months, we've seen challenging conditions affect a number of industries. Predominantly in Singapore, I think one of the industries that's been affected the most has been banking and finance. We've certainly seen a contraction in hiring within that sector. That hasn't been limited just to Singapore, that's been globally. And we've also seen just in the white-collar sector itself, at that director and C-level and above, given the cost constraints that most organisations are under, we've also seen that area affected.
So interesting that your survey shows Singaporeans are placing a lot more emphasis on leadership. You've been here a while, about 8 years. Have you seen any trends? Is this a new trend or it's been happening slowly?
I think it's something that has been building up over time. I think Singaporeans generally take their careers very seriously, and we're a competitive country, a bunch of people. But I think over time, particularly post-GFC, where a lot of people were unfortunate enough to lose their jobs, people are starting to place more emphasis on things like job security and job satisfaction, rather than just how much can I earn and what are my career advancement opportunities.
But would you say it's also got to do with our workforce being a bit more diverse, more foreigners coming in, different mindsets, changing expectations?
We've certainly got one of the most diverse workforces in the world, but I also think that priorities are changing for people. We're starting to see Generation Y come up now, and their priorities are very different to their predecessors, and that kind of thing is starting to catch on.
So when you did the survey, what did the respondents say, or how did they characterize weak leadership?
Typically, the feedback that we get from people when they feel like their manager is not delivering or not giving them what they want, they tend to feel very disengaged. So if you have people who feel disengaged, they're not being motivated, they don't feel like the encouragement is there from their leaders, they may not even feel like they have a good understanding of where the business is headed. So all of these types of things and that lack of engagement contributes to people thinking that their managers aren't doing a great job. So
what do they want then out of a good leader?
People want to be inspired, they want to be motivated, they want to feel like they're part of the big machine or the small machine that they may be working within. So companies of all different industries, across a range of industries and sizes, need to be taking that into account and thinking, how are we engaging with our people? Do they feel like they're part of, participating in the journey that the company's on?
So I was reading the report, and it says that employers, they're aware that there's a leadership shortcoming, but they're not equipped, or they're ill-equipped to mitigate the problem. This has to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that can be attributed to the fact that our economy has grown so quickly. The population has grown. There are more opportunities now for people in just about every industry sector. So that has prompted companies to promote people probably a little bit quicker than they're used to. But we're also seeing a strong investment from companies now into leadership programs, both on a formal and informal basis. So hopefully we're closing that gap.
So they are investing in their employees?
Absolutely.
Okay, one last question for you. Another reason people want to leave is for better salaries. So what is the salary expectation for next year? We
feel like salaries will probably stay in the range of 3 to 5% on an increment basis for permanent employees, very similar to last year. However, organisations that want to attract high performers and retain their high performers will certainly have to make some exceptions and reward those people.
Of course. Thank you very much for coming in. It was
You're
great
welcome.
Speaking to you. And that was Craig on what the Singaporean worker expects out of his or her job. In of course, we've had a lot of reaction online to the Hudson survey, finding that about 68% of employees in Singapore had left their job due to poor management, and about 2 in 5 of those surveyed rated their manager as average or very poor. So here's what some of you told us on Facebook about what you thought about the survey. Shi Chin says that she is leaving her company because of bad management. That particular reason, she feels the senior management simply doesn't care about the employees' well-being, career progression, and she says increments there are very slow. Al Richard says that a good manager needs to strike a good balance between managing profit, paying attention to the needs and concerns of their employees. Or Jaya here says that results will filter in automatically if a manager values his staff and treats them well, but he feels many might get carried away with their own status, perhaps forget how and why they got there in the first place. And finally, Jeffrey here believes that there will never be a perfect company. He thinks personal issues and mismatched expectations are what sometimes lead to finger-pointing at poor management, and people need to change the mentality in order to enjoy their work more. So lots of interesting comments there. Let us know what you think. You can always talk to us on Facebook and Twitter.